The journey Odysseus needed to make after the Trojan War was roughly 565 miles. A modern ship covers that in 2 days. Ancient Greek ships with favorable winds could do it in 3 weeks. It took him 10 years. Not because the sea was that wide, because of everything the sea revealed about who he was and who he had forgotten to be. You already know the broad shape of the story. A war ends, a man tries to go home. Things go wrong in ways that feel excessive, even by ancient standards. A one-eyed giant, a witch who turns men into pigs, a descent into the land of the dead, 6-headed monsters on one side of a strait and a whirlpool on the other. It sounds like the product of a very vivid imagination and too much time at sea. But the Odyssey was not invented by one person sitting alone with a scroll. For roughly 4 centuries, it existed only as sound. No text, no written version of any kind. Just performers who had memorized tens of thousands of lines and recited them from memory in front of crowds who already knew how it ended and came back to hear it anyway. A story that survives that way does not survive because of its monsters. It survives because it is telling the truth about something. What it is telling the truth about is this: the hardest journey a human being can make is not always the longest one. Sometimes it is the one that should be easiest that costs the most. The first mistake happens before the sea even has a chance to punish him. Fresh from Troy, Odysseus lands his fleet on the island of Ismarus, home of a people called the Cicones, and his men sack it. They take everything. And then, instead of leaving immediately as Odysseus orders, they stay. They celebrate. They drink. By morning, the Cicones have regrouped with reinforcements and attack at dawn. The losses are devastating. Ships that left Troy full of men leave Ismarus with gaps where those men used to sit. The journey home has barely begun, and it has already cost something that cannot be returned. The sea did not do this. Hesitation did. Celebration when the work was not yet finished did. Then the Lotus-Eaters. The fleet drifts to a strange island where the natives offer the crew flowers to eat. Lotus blossoms that produce a blissful, heavy forgetfulness. No pain, no urgency, no desire to go anywhere at all. Several of Odysseus's men eat them and simply stop wanting to go home. Not because they are weak, because the forgetting feels better than the wanting. Odysseus drags them back to the ships by force, weeping. This is the first real test, and it is not a test of strength or intelligence. It is a test of whether the idea of home is still more powerful than the comfort of not caring about it. His men, in that moment, fail it. And every human being who has ever numbed themselves to avoid a difficult return understands exactly why. Then the Cyclops. Trapped in the cave of Polyphemus, the one-eyed son of Poseidon, Odysseus uses everything he has. He gets the giant drunk. He blinds him with a sharpened stake. He ties himself and his surviving men under the bellies of sheep so they escape in darkness, hidden beneath animals, undignified, alive. Brilliant. And then, as the ship pulls away, safely beyond reach, he does the thing that cost him years. He shouts his real name across the water. I am Odysseus of Ithaca, son of Laertes. Not the false name he gave to survive. Nobody. His real name, his real home, his real self. He cannot resist being known by the thing he just defeated. That moment of pride earns him the permanent hatred of Poseidon, god of the sea he still has to cross. The sea does not punish him for cleverness. It punishes him for needing to be seen. Poseidon's hatred follows him now, but other gods intervene in smaller ways. Aeolus, keeper of the winds, takes pity on Odysseus and gives him a gift. A leather bag containing every dangerous wind, tied shut, with only the west wind left free to carry the fleet straight home to Ithaca. They sail for 9 days. The shore of Ithaca becomes visible. Odysseus, exhausted, falls asleep for the first time. His crew, watching him sleep beside the leather bag, convince themselves it must contain gold and silver. Why else would he guard it so carefully? They open it. Every wind inside escapes at once. The fleet is thrown backward across the sea, all the way back to Aeolus, who refuses to help a second time. A man cursed by the gods, he says, is not worth helping twice. 9 days of sailing, Ithaca in sight, undone in seconds by the greed of the people closest to him. The Laestrygonians come next, a tribe of cannibal giants who destroy the fleet with boulders thrown from cliff tops, sinking ship after ship, killing crew after crew. By the time Odysseus escapes, he has one ship left. One ship, and whatever men still fit on it, out of everything that left Troy. He has not yet reached the halfway point of his journey. On the island of Aiaia, a sorceress named Circe turns half his remaining crew into pigs. Odysseus, protected by a herb given to him by the god Hermes, confronts her and forces her to restore his men, and then he stays. For a full year, he stays on Circe's island, not enchanted, not imprisoned, choosing to remain where it is warm and safe and where no sea waits to punish him. He leaves only when his men remind him that home still exists. Circe's price for letting him go is this: he must first travel to the underworld and consult the dead. Odysseus sails to the edge of the world, performs the ritual, and speaks to ghosts. The blind prophet Tiresias tells him what he needs to survive. His dead mother appears and tells him Penelope still waits. His father is alive but grieving. His son is growing up without him. He reaches for her 3 times, and 3 times his arms close on nothing. The dead cannot be held. He learns everything he needs to know and leaves with the specific physical understanding of what 10 years of absence cost the people waiting. The Sirens come next, creatures whose voices are so perfectly beautiful that any sailor who hears them steers directly into the rocks trying to reach them. Odysseus does something no one before him has done. He orders his men to plug their ears with beeswax and tie him to the mast. He will hear the song and survive it. He listens to the most beautiful sound in the world while screaming at his men to untie him. And they cannot hear him, and they do not. He survives by making escape impossible for himself before the temptation arrives. Then the strait. On one side, Scylla, a 6-headed monster living in the cliff face, each head capable of taking one man. On the other, Charybdis, a whirlpool that swallows ships whole. There is no path through that costs nothing. Odysseus chooses to lose 6 men to Scylla rather than risk losing everyone to Charybdis. He watches 6 of his crew taken from the deck and eaten, calling his name, and sails on. This is not a victory. This is what survival sometimes looks like, and the Odyssey does not pretend otherwise. Then the island of Thrinacia and the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. Odysseus has been warned. Touch nothing, leave immediately. But the winds are against them and they are trapped on the island for weeks. And eventually the food runs out and Odysseus falls asleep and his starving men slaughter the cattle. Not out of arrogance, out of hunger and exhaustion and the human inability to hold a prohibition indefinitely when what it prohibits is the only thing within reach. Zeus punishes them with a thunderbolt. The ship goes down. Every man dies. Odysseus alone survives, clinging to wreckage, because he alone did not eat. He washes up on the island of Ogygia. A nymph named Calypso saves him, falls in love with him, offers him immortality, eternal youth, comfort beyond anything mortal life can provide. And for 7 years, Odysseus stays. Not because he has forgotten Ithaca. He has not. He sits on the shore every morning and weeps for it, and goes back to Calypso's bed every night, and does not leave. He knows exactly what he wants and spends 7 years unable to move toward it. It takes a direct order from Zeus, delivered by the god Hermes, to finally compel Calypso to release him. He builds a raft. Poseidon, returning from a trip, spots him on the open sea and sends a storm that destroys it. Odysseus swims for 2 days before washing ashore in the land of the Phaeacians, who feed him, listen to the full account of everything that has happened, and give him a ship. He arrives on Ithaca asleep, carried in by sailors who set him on the shore and leave before he wakes. When he finally opens his eyes on Ithaca, he does not recognize it. The goddess Athena has disguised the island. For a moment, the man who spent 10 years trying to get home stands on the soil of home and cannot tell that he has arrived. He comes home disguised as a beggar. The man who could not resist shouting his name at a blinded giant enters his own hall in rags and says nothing. Over 100 suitors have filled his palace, eating his food, exhausting his wealth, pressuring his wife Penelope to choose one of them and declare Odysseus dead. She has been holding them off for years with a trick, weaving a burial shroud by day and unraveling it by night, buying time with patience and deception while she waited for a man everyone else had stopped expecting. The recognition comes in stages. First, his dog, Argos, ancient, dying, waiting, lifts his head, wags his tail once, and is gone. Then his son. Then Penelope herself through a test she designs. She will only believe it is truly him if he knows the secret of their bed, carved from a living olive tree still rooted in the ground beneath their room. It cannot be moved. It has never been moved. He knows. In that moment, 20 years of separation collapse into a single piece of knowledge that no one else in the world could have held. The bed did not move. That was the proof. Not the bow that no one else could string, not the suitors defeated in the hall. A piece of furniture that had not moved, and a man who still remembered why. Here is the part that should feel familiar. You have not fought at Troy, you have not blinded a Cyclops or navigated between monsters, but you have had the experience of a journey that should have been simple, taking far longer than it had any right to. Not because the distance was wrong, but because something in you was not ready to arrive. Because the version of you that left is not the version that could come back. Because home, when you finally reach it, is never exactly the place you left, and neither are you. The Odyssey has been told continuously for 3,000 years. Every empire that existed when it was first performed has collapsed. Every language it was first told in has changed beyond recognition. And still, somewhere right now, someone is reading about a man on a raft in the middle of a sea he has already crossed 3 times, weeping for a place he is not sure still exists the way he remembers it. That is not a story about ancient Greece. That is a story about what it costs to be away from the thing that makes you yourself, for long enough that you start to wonder if it still does. 3 weeks was the distance, 10 years was the journey. The sea between them was not water.